ladies and gentlemen of the media, once again I thank you for coming to our weekly press briefing. As I promised, we are going to hold a weekly press briefing so that we maintain cordial relations with you, our development partners in the press, so that the nation is kept informed. We also want to take our weekly press briefings to provide answers and clarity on various issues on our party, its activities, and the journey that we are seized with towards fulfilling our mandate as provided for explicitly in the 2018 People's Manifesto. So today's briefing, special brief, will cover the following. I want to say something about corruption. And on these issues, I want us to have like a conversation on this issue. I also say something about corruption in the MDC-run local urban councils and local authorities. Then I will have something to say on the Roman Catholics later. That is the pastoral letter from the Bishops' Conference, and then I'll deal with one or two other minor issues. On corruption, we are all aware that in 2018, we fought our campaign on the basis that we were going to fight against corruption and that we consider this fight as one of the key deliverables, and that to achieve that, President Mnangagwa declared zero tolerance to corruption towards building a corruption-free society. I want us to emphasize that the fight against corruption is not a one-day wonder. It's going to be a long journey, as I will elaborate later in my statement and even perhaps in question and answer. This was as a result of the realization that corruption was becoming one of the biggest threats to the realization of an upper middle income economy by 2030. As Zanu PF, we have welcomed the willingness and enthusiasm in our society and various stakeholders, including members of the media, to partner government by way of exposing corruption when and where it exists. We have accepted that. As we do so, we wish to inform members of the media that they are a key ally in fighting corruption. But in doing so, we encourage them to be objective, frank, and clear of being weaponized to peddle falsehoods to smear politicians. I want to emphasize that corruption allegations should be evidence-based and not based on rumors. Rumors, you can't take rumors into a court of law. Rumors can affect, of course, people's reputations, but that is as far as you can go. If you want to bring someone to account, to book, you must bring evidence so that the court has something meat on which to bite. Again, as the Public Relations Department of the party, we call upon the media to know the following fundamentals in fighting corruption. The first, that corruption is a societal challenge which appear ubiquitous in business, civil society, government, local councils, churches, communities, and among individuals. It's not an easy animal to identify. It's not an animal that we can say, let's go and see whether at the bus stop we can find Mr. Corruption or Mrs. Corruption. That is the nature of corruption. It's not easy to identify, like I've said so in previous press conferences. It's the most difficult crime to detect and to arrest and to prosecute, because both the briber and the bribed have both benefited. So they are unlikely, unless they've cheated each other, they are most unlikely to report each other to the law enforcement agents. So it leaves the work of detection to whistleblowers or to people who can identify that systems which were set up in an organization have not been followed to the prejudice of the organization and to the benefit of the persons who violated the systems. 2, corruption is no membership to a political organization, be it Zanu PF, the splitting MDCs, or otherwise. It cuts across all political, all church, all religious, is everywhere. See that the best way to fight corruption is by way of investigative journalism. So we support investigative journalism, but in order to establish facts and evidence rather than to peddle and propagate fiction. We want at the end of an investigative journalist report to be able to say, this is what I found is a matter of fact. 4, that corruption does not benefit anyone in the society. 5, that cases of corruption involve very technical legal intricacies that may delay conviction, sometimes causing delays in investigation and prosecution. If there is a relationship, I want to point out, this is the first time I'm making this point. There is an obvious relationship between sanctions and corruption, where due to the incapacity of government or the private sector to provide competitive salaries in the region, workers end up engaging in acts of corruption to supplement what they get, which is, however, unfortunate. The illegal sanctions have affected our economy and continuously affect the value of our currency and consequently our returns. As sanctions bite, the economy does not perform to expectations. And when the economy is not performing, people find it easy to have shortcuts in order to benefit, in order to make livelihoods. That is what sanctions do to your economy. The illegal sanctions have, and again, due to sanctions, our institutions which are mandated to fight corruption have been incapacitated to investigate swiftly both local and external cases. It is for this reason that we implore and remind comrades in the media of their patriotic duty to who report on corruption to call upon the unconditional removal of sanctions, the twin evils which are haunting our society. On a daily basis, we hear comrades in the media echoing the US ambassador's fake news narrative that Zimbabwean problems are a result of corruption and not sanctions. Today we ask him and them the key question. If sanctions were not meant to and are not affecting our economy, why have successive administrations in those countries, and the US in particular, kept these sanctions since 2000? For what reason? Is this for leisure or for the fun of it? We ask, let's get a straight answer to that. We leave this question for you to answer as we reiterate our call for the unconditional removal of sanctions. In my previous press conference, I made a chance remark about rampant corruption in MDC opposition-run urban and local authorities. To my surprise, this chance remark elicited a deluge of correspondence from affected residents. And I want to summarize the incidents of corruption, illegalities, and abuses that were alleged to be taking place in urban and local authorities under the watch of the MDC opposition, irrespective of which splinter MDC group is in charge of which local authority. These acts of corruption, illegalities, and abuse have gravely compromised service delivery. There is no water reticulation, no roads, no refuse collection, no sewage, no electricity connection, making urban municipalities a health time bomb waiting to explode. Land set aside for recreational facilities, wastelands, areas reserved for roads, infrastructure, schools, clinics, have been parceled out and turned into cash cows by corrupt councillors and council officials. No running tapped water, raw sewage flowing everywhere in the residential areas. In fact, when I received this correspondence, and it still keeps coming, I wondered, as someone who grew up in a village, I always wonder the mindset of the urban mindset. I still have to come to grips or to grapple with how it thinks. And when I examine what is taking place, I find that the more corrupt the MDC councillors become, the more the urban voters vote for them. The more raw sewage flow into their homes, into the streets, the more the urban voter vote for them. The more roads become road potholed, service delivery becomes poorer, the more they become agitated. Shamisa Chet, I think we need an anthropological or sociological report, study, to understand the connection between poor service delivery and the ability to continue earning votes on an increasing scale, notwithstanding poor service delivery, poor water reticulation, which are all the responsibilities of the urban local authorities. They receive rates. Where is the money going? It should be going to do all these things, but it's not happening. Let me give you the particulars sent to me in the correspondence. It said that mayors and councillors are demanding kickbacks and money to sign recommendation letters for allocation of residential, commercial, churches, recreational, and industrial stands. At the mention of churches, I wondered, what kind of churches are these? What kind of immorality do you pay in order to build a church of God? To pay a bribe? What does it mean to your congregation that you pay a bribe in order to get a stand to build God's home? The correspondence also revealed that the MDC opposition councillors in turn are turning a blind eye to officials demanding bribes and kickbacks before they can recommend residents for allocation of residential, commercial, churches, recreational, and business stands. Also, mayors and councillors are alleged to be demanding a share or a quota of all stands that are created in their wards, which they will sell for personal gain. Also, mayors, councillors, and officials are said to have formed cartels, cutting across departments, and some outside agents that ensure that the swift illegal town planning, there is rampant illegal town planning taking place, rampant illegal surveying, undervaluation, allocation, and disposal of council land where the proceeds in US dollars are shared and pocketed by the cartels. Also, mayors, councillors, and senior council officials continue to loot and accumulate numerous personal, residential, commercial, and industrial stands cheaply acquired from councils by putting in place so-called council policies that facilitate the looting, e.g., the correspondents even highlighted the policies that have been put in place specifically to facilitate corruption. The first, a council, I am told, gets a residential and commercial stand for every 5-year term of office. Did you know this as journalists? If you didn't, what becomes of your investigative journalism? 2, council will not approve anything in all its committees unless the ward councillors have signed in agreement. So the ward councillor's signature is now worth a lot of money, because to get the agreement, you must pay. This is illegal since it is not provided for anywhere in the statutes. It actually promotes bribes and corruption. Then thirdly, council employees only pay 30% of the value of residential stands allocated to them. Did we know this? This is a policy that should be debated, to say, once you get in there, if you're a council, in fact, people get employment in council specifically so that they can get a residential stand and pay 30%. After they've done that, they can go to another employment. That is what is going on in your councils. We also get this allegation that councillors are working in cahoots with council employees to swiftly parcel out and allocate and or sell stands in wetlands without following town planning and allocation procedures, also often allocating to those politically aligned to them. Then G, land barons claiming to be politically aligned to the MDC opposition use their influence to fleece innocent residents of their hard-earned money, in addition to making them lose money by building unplanned settlements and or on wetlands where the structures end up at some point being demolished, causing double jeopardy to the unsuspecting residents. I want to make this very clear today. If anyone goes about claiming that he is coming from Zanu PF and is a land baron, please arrest him, help to arrest him. It's not true. We do not sanction, we do not give any authority to any person to deal in land anywhere, whether rural or urban. So anyone who says to that effect is a bogus person and should be arrested on sight. Zanu PF notes with grave concern and condemns in the strongest possible terms the rampant corruption, illegalities, and abuses taking place in the local authorities under the corrupt, watchful eye of the MDC opposition. Zanu PF is therefore calling upon all local authorities run by the MDC opposition, the respective mayors, councillors in their official and individual capacities, town clerks, and other senior municipal officials in their official and individual capacities, and all municipal employees to desist and stop forthwith all manner of corruption, all corrupt tendencies, including accepting bribes, practicing nepotism, and all such devices. Zanu PF is also, the ruling and governing party, is also calling upon all relevant law enforcement arms of government to enforce the law with no fear or favor, to ensure that the corruption wrought in local authorities is stopped forthwith, immediately. Any law enforcement agents who connive to promote corruption by not prosecuting cases that are brought to their attention by whistleblowers and members of the public should immediately be brought to book and be prosecuted. Residents and members of the public are urged in the first instance, not to vote for corrupt councillors and individuals, and in the second instance, not to protect corrupt councillors and officials. Where bribes are requested, residents should immediately alert law enforcement agents so that traps can be set up and culprits are caught and brought to book. Residents and members of the public are also urged not to offer any bribes, or should we say, Marie Coke, or thank you tokens, or combi, or bus fare, or lunch money to councillors and officials, however small in amount, because Zanu PF as a party has observed that this is fueling corruption. Generally, we are told, according to this correspondence, officials will come. They are paid to do their duties. But they will come and say, Antina marriage kaf. And they will mention that as a story, preliminary. And then it sends a coup to the person seeking the service. So, no, I think I must pay something. That individuals should not do. Land barons continue to fleece residents of their hard-earned money, and Zanu PF calls upon residents to be vigilant and not fall prey to them. Zanu PF condemns all land barons and does not support anyone who steals from innocent persons. We urge citizens to report land barons to law enforcement arms of government. Zanu PF is calling upon all segments of the splitting MDC to join hands with Zanu PF in taking all necessary measures, including reporting all corrupt MDC mayors and councillors, as well as council employees, to law enforcement agencies of government so that such people are arrested and prosecuted accordingly. We say to MDC, don't hide your corrupt councillors. Don't hide your corrupt mayors. Help government, help the law enforcement agencies. Expose these people so that they are arrested, and with a cleaner society, we have better administered local authorities which offer service, rehabilitate our roads, put water reticulation, collect refuse, all of which are responsibilities of councils, which currently are all run by the MDC. So we demand, as Zanu PF, that the MDC opposition party should join hands with Zanu PF and His Excellency President Mnangagwa in uprooting corruption from our society, root, stem, and branch. Let me now say something on the pastoral letter issued by the Bishops' Conference. They wrote a very scathing communique attacking our government and our president, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa, accusing him of having done nothing, meaning in terms of fulfilling the promises that we made in 2018. And also, unfortunately, calling our government a violator of human rights. They also said our country is in a crisis. Of course, we dismiss these allegations with the contempt they deserve. Not only as baseless, but pandering to the demands of the MDCs. You know, the language was clearly tilted. In fact, you would say that the language seems to have been written by either Chamisa or Biti, more likely by Biti. All churches must know that their membership cuts across the political divide. And therefore, as they speak to the shepherds, to the sheep as shepherds, they must not be seen to be banishing certain sheep out of the fold, or to be aligning themselves with certain of the sheep. More so in the political arena, it doesn't come out well. It doesn't come out well. The language of vitriol is not the language that we expect from the church. We expect that the church will be very moderate in their language. If anything, they will also ask for permission to seek dialogue. In this case, with the president, there was no approach that we know of that our president was approached for a dialogue with the Bishops' Conference and refused. I know that the president has been in dialogue with many groups. As he said right at the beginning, he's a listening president. Now, if you do not want to be listened to and you are condemnatory, what objective do you want to achieve? That is the question we ask. They talk about a crisis. Of course, the economy is not performing as it should. Why? Because of sanctions. But we don't see in their letter any condemnation of sanctions. We don't see any call for the uplifting, unconditional lifting of sanctions. We also know, of course, that the current problem we have is COVID-19, and it's impacting negatively. Those lockdown regulations, the world over, are impacting negatively on the performance of our economies. We expected some acknowledgement that some of the economic challenges we are facing are because of lockdown regulations, which all the countries are mourning about. But be that as it may, we did not see anything of the sort. Talking about progress, we wanted to refer the Bishops' Conference to the progress with regards to re-engagement and engagement. We refer them to the roads revolution going in across the country. What we are doing on the Bight Bridge to Harare, those who travel that road should be able to know what is going on there. And we know there is a diocese, Catholic diocese in Mutare, in Mashingo rather. When they come to Harare, they should know that there is something happening. And they should chip in and to say, no, on this issue, I've come from Mashingo to Harare, this is what's happening between Mvuma and Chivu, or between Chivu and Beatrice. That's what we expect them to say. We also referred them to the manner in which we have thus far tackled the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Under very limited resources, government has done its level best to safeguard the lives of Zimbabweans. It has done its level best. And we expected that the letter would commend government for that magnificent work that government has done in that endeavor. But no. We also refer them to the ease of doing business instituted since the new dispensation. We refer them to the ongoing crackdown against corruption at all levels, resulting in the expulsion of and conviction of high-ranking officials in central and local authorities. We also referred them to the ongoing dams construction across the country to support agriculture through irrigation. We talk about Marwanyati, which was completed, Causeway Dam, also completed, Gwaishangani, which is ongoing, and many other dam construction. Without a foundation, infrastructure foundation, roads, dams, power generation, you have no economy to talk about. We also referred them to the annual presidential farming input support scheme, which is benefiting in excess of 1.8 million households countrywide. The cotton scheme, which is benefiting in excess of 350,000 households, giving livelihoods to many, many people who we consider marginalized. We refer them to the progress we have made in bringing Chimanimani and Chipinge back to normal after Cyclone Idai. All that is not acknowledged. You know how many trips our president made to Chimanimani, Chipinge? That's not where he comes from. And I don't think there is any other place which has been visited as much as Chimanimani and Chipinge by our president, including the First Lady. That also good work is not acknowledged, and we ask why. We also refer them to the progress that we are making in stabilizing the financial sector through the tightening of regulations on mobile money transfer, the temporary suspension of the stock exchange, Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, which has since reopened, and the launch of the Victoria Falls foreign currency denominated stock exchange, which is in the pipeline. We also refer to them to the launch of the foreign currency exchange auction system, which has gone some way in stabilizing the exchange rate. We also refer them to the global compensation agreement with former white farmers to finalize the, or should we say, to cement and ensure the irreversibility of the land reform. That is significant. No reference to that momentous event. No reference anyway to the fact that Zimbabwe, Zanu PF embarked on the land reform program, and that is what caused sanctions. No reference to land reform, no reference to sanctions, no reference to the global compensation agreement, none. These are achievements. We refer them also to the cleaning up process on housing and residential land, which had fallen into the hands of unscrupulous land barons, and this we have done through the Uchena Land Audit Commission. We also refer them to the completion of the Kariba South Power Extension Plant, but because of rain and Zanu PF, only God gives us rain. Because of no rain, we are not able to tap into the 300 megawatt power plant which was completed. But as the Kariba Dam fills up, we should be able to reap the benefits of that development. We also refer them to the Pollard Dialogue Platform, which shows our desire, the President's desire, to unite the nation by carrying all views on board. No reference to Pollard. And let me reiterate again here that the President has said, Chamisa is free at any time to join the platform of Pollard tomorrow if he wants to. Even notwithstanding his noises about the President being illegitimate. Tomorrow, if he says he's coming to the table on Pollard, he's free, and I want to reiterate, he's free to join Pollard dialogue process. We also refer the Bishops' Conference to the periodic dialogue which the President is constantly having with the multi-brilliant collective groups to bring finality to Gukura Hundi. In the letter, pastoral letter, there is mention of Gukura Hundi, and it doesn't acknowledge the efforts which have been made so far to address that issue. It doesn't, no acknowledgement. That we find very unfortunate. And we are happy that recently, last week, the President was there, once again, to finalize and ensure implementation of some of the agreements which were reached with the multi-billion collective, such as to do with issuance of birth certificates, reburials, and so on. It's a process when you are addressing a calamity, which was what Gukurahund was. You don't resolve it overnight. It's a process, and already the president, step by step, is resolving that issue. And we are very pleased with the cooperation that, in fact, the people in Matabeleland has been providing and offering in the resolution of this matter. We also want to refer the Bishops' Conference to the role that our president continues to play in the region, especially during the past year when he was chairman of the SADC organ, Troika organ on peace, defense and security, in resolving disputes between member states. As you might be aware, that our president is now the outgoing chair of the Troika. Under his stewardship, Zimbabwe supervised 5 elections in 5 countries. Again, there should be acknowledgement for such achievements. None were given. So these, among many other developments, were left, that we have left our answer to the bishop's pastoral letter. We are saying to the bishop, before you speak, please ask for dialogue with our president. We would want to hear in their letter to say, we asked for the dialogue, the president refused. We asked for dialogue with Zanu PF, Zanu PF refused. We are open to any dialogue on any issue that affects Zimbabweans, that affects their lives. They only needed to ask if, in fact, they want to be constructive, if they want to build a united country, if they want prosperity. We should not allow any tendencies which precipitate us to violent situations or which give encouragement to noises that want to precipitate violent outcomes for our country. In the campaign, and I always say this, in the campaign in 2018, and we can go to the speeches, while our president was speaking peace, love, tolerance, Chamisa was spewing out violent speeches, saying that he will not anokanda jecha. When it's translated, it doesn't mean the same thing. Unokanda jecha musadza. Ilanguage yemuro iyo. Yekukanda jecha musadza. In the village, jainzi kuisa china. Muhari inobikirwa sadza. That was the language. And the Bishops' Conference does not say any word about it, either at that time or subsequently. Chamisa puts hooligans on the street on the 1st of August. They commit violence. Not a word from the Bishops' Conference condemning the events of 1st of August. Not a word. On the 14th to the 16th of January, MDC put hooligans on the street, they commit violence. Not a word from the Bishops' Conference. No. We are saying to the bishops, please be fair to all of us. Be fair to the country. Speak out against all evil, irrespective of its source. There were quotations from the prophet Jeremiah. Yes, Jeremiah was speaking against fakes. Let the Bishops' Conference speak against actual fakes in terms of violations of human rights. They should come with people who give evidence so that any such allegations are addressed and corrected. Let me now say something on the narrative emanating from social media that Zimbabwe is in a crisis. We have noted the desire to present Zimbabwe as a crisis by sponsored civil society groups working with the US and its allies to spread malicious fake news that Zimbabwe is in a crisis of human rights violations. Working with the MDC and ghost social media accounts and trolls created by one person, these groups are taking every opportunity they get to spread lies against the situation in our country. They also have recruited local media players to spread malice, some whom we know are paid to do that. In fact, we have a long list of people who have bought houses to solicit their support as leaders in the 31st July 2013, July this year. While we reiterate that there is no crisis in Zimbabwe, we call upon concerned countries to seek clarity from the Foreign Affairs Ministry, Information Ministry, ourselves, the Zanu PF, or visit Zimbabwe and experience the beauty, love, unity, peace, and stability of our nation, rather than relying on faceless organizations like Tajamuka. I must say, sometimes we feel very worried when we hear some of the individuals whom we call friends and with whom we have open communication channels at both government and party level, making disparaging remarks against our leaders and seeking to gain undeserved attention by saying we are in a crisis. I wish they could come and they show us, we drive around so that they can show us where they say there is a crisis. Other than slow space in the growth of our economy. We don't know on whose behalf and for what reasons they continue to make those uncalled for malicious remarks. We are, however, glad that our leaders, both at party and government levels, continue to enjoy cordial mutual relations despite such noisemakers. Let me say something about the Matabeleland Collective. The President's just ended dialogue with the Matabeleland Collective towards addressing Kukurawundi. The party wishes to applaud our President and First Secretary, Comrade Mnangagwa, and his government for his sterling efforts in working with interest groups, churches, and societal leaders in Matabeleland to find each other and bring finality to the Kukurawundi issue. Everyone acknowledges that this was previously a very difficult topic to discuss. It was like taboo. Now we can discuss it openly, thanks to Comrade Mnangagwa. You cannot solve a problem by hiding it under the carpet or under the table. And what Comrade Mnangagwa has done is to put everything on the table. Let all the allegations be put on the table and pursued and investigated and corrected. Thank you very much. That completes my statement.